up ahead to Okoro. Okoro's hit by Siakam, puts it up and in. Isaac Okoro.
Last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers clinched a playoff spot for the second year in a row, and while there's only one game remaining, the Cavs still have no idea who they are going to play in the first round. A handful of possibilities are on the table, and today I want to go over the best and worst matchups in rapid-fire fashion before Sunday's final slate of games. And included will be the actual probability of facing each team according to playoffstatus.com. Before we get started, there are a few teams we can scratch off of the board right away, as a first round meeting with the Boston Celtics, Milwaukee Bucks, Atlanta Hawks, Chicago Bulls, or the New York Knicks is now impossible for the Cavs. And no matter what happens on Sunday, Cleveland has clinched home court advantage through at least the first round. Now let's begin with the potential opponent I am hoping to avoid the most, the Philadelphia 76ers. The Cavs have a 16% chance of drawing Philly in the first round. This is the second highest odds of any of their potential opponents. It has been a top-heavy season for the Eastern Conference, and one major reason for this is the injury to Joel Embiid.
Joel spins and throws it down.
Prior to Christmas, the 76ers had the best net rating in the entire NBA, and their record with Maxey and Embiid in the lineup is still the highest winning percentage of any team this season. But following Embiid's injury, Philly plummeted to 21st in net rating and has only managed to improve to 19th following the All-Star break. Embiid is the reigning MVP for a reason, and he was in the middle of perhaps the best season of his career. Now that Embiid is back on the floor, he rejoins an All-NBA candidate in Tyrese Maxey and has another elite shooter around him, with Buddy Hield joining the team in February. This, alongside some quality veterans such as Kyle Lowry and Nick Batum, give the 76ers everything they need to make a deep playoff push regardless of their seeding. And all I know is I would rather the Cavaliers avoid their path, at least in the first round. This isn't to say Cleveland can't compete against the 76ers. They have the size and length needed to throw multiple looks at Embiid for an entire series, and the backcourt wouldn't face too much defensive resistance from the pairing of Maxey and Hield. But a 34-point-per-game scorer and a beast of a paint defender in Embiid is something the Cavs will not willingly sign up for, even if Joel's playoff resume is nothing special up to this point. Moving to our next opponent, and with just a 9% chance of crossing paths, the Miami Heat are a team I want nothing to do with. For all of their struggles throughout the regular season, many of which can be partially explained by injuries, the dark magic that Erik Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler play with every spring is something I want the Cavs to stay far, far away from. It's nearly impossible to know what to expect from the Heat. They ran all the way to the NBA Finals last year, despite entering as the final play-in seed. Jimmy and Bam have proven they can bend a series to their will, and Spoelstra is the mastermind behind all of it. Considering the Cavs have had trouble matching their opponent's physicality and making game plan adjustments in the past, Miami is a team that could give them serious trouble. But the Heat's depth might not be as prolific as it was in the past, with Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, two streaky scorers who helped them make the finals last year, departing in the summer. At some point, Miami's magic is bound to run out, but until we see it happen, the Cavaliers will not want to test that theory. The next possible opponent also resides in Florida, with the Orlando Magic posing a 12% chance of being Cleveland's first round matchup. The Magic are a stout defensive team that should finish third in defensive rating this season. Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Isaac have been world beaters defensively, and the rest of the roster is full of rangy, versatile defenders that can slow opponents down. And having Paolo Banchero as your best player is nothing to scoff at. Orlando's defense is something that would worry me, as Cleveland's offense is prone to being dragged into the mud, sometimes all on their own. Orlando has the tools to swarm Cleveland's backcourt and neutralize some of Mitchell and Garland's scoring effect. They could easily replicate New York's game plan from a year ago by blitzing the ball and forcing the Cavalier bigs to create plays for themselves. While Mobley and Allen have both improved as decision makers, and the addition of Strus has opened the floor to give them more secondary options, a strong defensive team is still the type of thing I'd like Cleveland to steer clear of, even if Orlando's offense is something that should not be feared, ranking 22nd in offensive rating. This brings us to our last potential opponent and the most likely first round matchup for Cleveland, with more than a 60% chance of drawing the Indiana Pacers to kick off the postseason. This would be the best possible outcome for the Cavaliers. Much like Orlando, the Pacers are a young and inexperienced team, only they are far worse off on the defensive side of the floor. Indiana has consistently been one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA this year, and losing another ball defender in Benedict Mathurin due to injury will not help them. While the trade for Pascal Siakam has caused a slight shift in the way they play defense, Indy is still one of the most vulnerable teams in the postseason. This is a squad that looks to overwhelm teams with their scoring, not their defense. And while the Cavs being able to match that offensive output is a concern, I feel more confident in their ability to score against Indiana than any other potential opponent. This series would likely come down to Cleveland's defense, which has been their core identity for 3 years now. The only major concern would be Indiana's ability to stretch the floor with Siakam, Miles Turner, and even Jalen Smith in the front court. They're able to knock down threes and spread the defense more than any other potential opponent for Cleveland, and that could strain the two big lineup. But the Pacers are near the bottom of the pack in terms of rebounding, and we've already seen how Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley can dominate games in the paint against this team. Toss in all the freedom in the world for Donovan Mitchell to get his own numbers without many capable defenders to check him, and there are just too many ways for the Cavs to win this series. While it's hard to be overly confident in anything after the way last season ended, a first round matchup with the Pacers would be the easiest way for Cleveland to punch their tickets to round 2.
Hey, knocks it down.